This time we'll call the meeting of February 1st, 2016 to order. Councilmember Luna, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Council members Clower.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Friend.
Present.
Luma.
Present.
City Manager Avera.
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan.
Here.
Police Chief Westrick.
Here.
And City Clerk Graves. Here.
Thank you. Verification agenda posting.
The agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister meeting on February 1st, 2016 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on January 28th, 2016 at 2:28 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. Let's move forward with the swearing in of the Mayor Pro Tempore.
Raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Victor Gomez,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I would support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
discharge the duties which I'm about to enter. Thank you.
In case you need it, we have pictures in case he tries to back out. All right, we'll go forward or move forward to the City Council committees for 2016. Council of Governments, Vice Mayor Gomez, myself, Councilmember Luna as the alternate. The LAFCO committee, myself, and Councilmember Friend as the alternate. Intergovernmental, myself, Councilmember Friend, Councilmember Clower as the alternate. Fire Protection, be myself, Councilmember Friend. AMBAG, be myself. Council of Criminal Justice, Councilmember Luna. I would be the alternate. OEDP, or CEDS committee, appoint myself. Governance committee, Councilmember Luna, Councilmember Clower, and I will be the alternate. Water Resource, Councilmember Friend, Councilmember Clower is the alternate. Pajaro River, Councilmember Luna. Solid Waste Committee, Councilmember Friend, Vice Mayor Gomez. Economic Development Ad Hoc Committee, Councilmember Gomez and Councilmember Friend. Department Liaisons, Administration, Vice Mayor Gomez. Police, Councilmember Friend. Fire, myself. Community Services, Councilmember Luna. Development Services, Councilmember Flower. Finance, myself. Motorcycle Event, Councilmember Friend. San Mateo County Local Solid Waste Task Force, Councilmember Clower. Councilmember Friend as the alternate. Monterey Bay Unified Air Pollution Control, Councilmember Luna is the alternate. Revenue Subcommittee, myself, Councilmember Friend. Successor Agency for the RDA, Councilmember Gomez. Gang Prevention, Councilmember Luna, Councilmember Friend. I would be the alternate. Oversight Committee, Councilmember Friend. Area Agency on Aging, Councilmember Luna. Chromium Committee, myself and Councilmember Friend. Ad hoc committees for wastewater, myself, Councilmember Friend. Housing and Planning, Councilmember Clower and myself. Soundwall, Councilmember Luna and myself. Marijuana Oversight Committee, Councilmember Clower and Councilmember Friend. And that is it.
Do we need a motion to accept those?
There's no motion required to accept those, right? All right. Move forward on item A, consent resolution. Are there any items council would like to pull?
A6.
A6?
Yep.
Any other items? I'd like to make a correction on A1 on the minutes. Item G4 from the previous minutes, I was not in favor of the change from senior housing to single-family housing. Do we have any items from any speaker cards or?
There are no speaker cards for the A series.
Okay.
Make a motion that we accept consent calendar as amended.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A6.
Yeah, I pulled item A6, which has to do with the rally, mostly because when reviewing the contract, it's interesting that, or it's interesting coincidence that the kind of soft additional costs add up to the $45,000 that the hard costs were short to meet the 180. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in a contract before. It's a little odd to me that we're trying to backfill a deficit with kind of fake money. As far as I'm concerned, this is money that should be going somewhere else. It looks to me like the business licenses would be the city's money anyways. The sales tax would be the city's money anyways. So it's kind of deceiving that we try to say that the estimate is $45,000, which when you add it to the 135 is the 180 that we were originally trying to get to. And I understand there may be some reason for that. But I don't think I would agree to a labor contract that was written in any way like this. This is it's kind of a goofy way to write it. I'd rather see it just say, hey, 135 is what they're willing to pay, and that's what we're willing to take. The sales tax revenue is the city's anyways. The business license revenue is the city's anyways. The public should be able to know for sure that, hey, at least 3 members of the council agreed to take 135 for a rally that we believe is going to cost most of $180,000. I really think that it should say something like that, and if we accept the contract the way it is, that's fine, but I want to make sure that the record states that I'm saying it's 135. It looks like it's 180. It's not. We still don't know what the hard numbers are for the rally in the past. We don't know what it's going to be in the future. The best estimate of $45,000 is kind of a joke to me. That's just how do we get to the number that we said we wanted and try to appease everybody. So I don't know if I have much more to say, but I think the contract kind of supports my my comments from a couple weeks ago.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Luna.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to agree with Councilmember Clower, because I've mentioned before that we have to take into account the amount of $90,000 that wasn't paid has anything to do with the business license, and we have to separate that. In the business license from the 2014 rally to the 2015 rally, we actually lost $37,000, $37,730. When we talk the Board of Equalization and Taxes, I have a preliminary report, but it's going to be coming up because actually the Board of Equalization will be visiting the city of Hollister in February. But let me just give you a preliminary report. And that is that when we sent in the listing to the Board of Equalization to check out the vendors, there was 199 vendors that they reviewed. Out of 199 vendors accounts, 119 are registered with the Board of Equalization. 58 are not. 22, they couldn't even find them. And when you look at 119 that are registered with the Board of Equalization, only 26 of them pay taxes for the city of Hollister. So that means that the difference, people did not pay taxes. And they're continuing the research and the review, and they will be coming back. But when you look at the breakdown of 199, we know that 199, 25 of those businesses are from Hollister. We know that 125 are from throughout the state of California. And we know that 49 are out of state. So when I was recommending the postponement of the rally so that we could review everything and we can assure that everything that we have is in order and the city is going to move forward in actually making a profit. And that's what I was thinking. And I was not recommending. I was not recommending postponement of the rally for 2017. I was just saying, let's get everything in order so that we can move forward. So I just wanted to give you that preliminary report, and I hope you think about it because, after all, this is city money. This is money that we could be using on several things within the city that are needed. We can't continue to lose money year after year with a rally with only a few people enjoying it. So anyway, that is my commentary, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friend?
Well, it says here, in response to your question, that the promoter shall undertake to collect all temporary business licenses and sales taxes. So even though the city hasn't done a very good job of doing that, we're putting the onus on the promoter to do that. So that's his responsibility, not the city's, to do that. So it should be done. I agree with you. It should have been done better, but that's where the estimates come in at $25,000 and $20,000 in sales tax per. That's going to be after the rally when he collects it all. I believe that's the way it is. That's the way I read it.
Let's have the city manager or city attorney can answer those questions.
Yeah, we're we're putting that burden, a shared burden, that if this promoter was to be successful and have it extended, that he has made representations to us that he would not be allowing persons who did not pay taxes and show a proof of payment to the Board of Equalization and the payment of the business licenses, they would not be allowed to renew. In the past, some of the promoters have collected those and not turned them over to the city. Or they've included the business license in the amount for their space rent, and we've come where we try to collect it, and they're showing us a receipt, and then the promoter doesn't pay us. So we're trying to put the burden on them so that it's clear, and that it makes it up is not coincidental, but it's showing that we're trying to make the burden so that it's a shared one that it can be collected up front and paid over to us on the shortly before the rally.
And I think as with the promoter that was here the meeting before was pointing that out, and I think we had that conversation about in the past a lot of these vendors were not registering properly and pretty much getting away with it. And this is the point that we had that conversation to make sure that we're going to follow up, that this promoter has to prove each person's filed correctly and done all these different things, rather than as it was in the past where people said, yeah, I did that, and never followed through. So I think this contract, as I understand it, is holding them accountable for doing that, following up
It's
on
trying.
Trying.
I have a request to speak, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Marty Richmond.
Good morning, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll just repeat what I did last time. I think it's obvious from the last vote that there are 3 votes up there to have the rally. That's, it's your vote. I don't get to vote. But I think you also should understand that you're going to eat $45,000. You are going to eat it, because at this point in time, there's no hope we're going to fix this. We may make some marginal improvements, and I appreciate Councilmember Luna going and talking to the Board of Equalization. I really do, because I like fact-based arguments. So I think any hope of getting massive improvement in 2016, just not enough time. We're already behind the 8 ball on time. Everybody, I think any realistic look at it. So if you decide to do it and decide to eat $45,000, some of you may think it's worth it. Some of you may not. The reason I want to get up is say the same thing I did last time. If we eat $45,000 in 2016, for God's sakes, let's not do it again in 2017. And that's what's really irritating me, because we've known about these problems for years, and we do not get them fixed. We do not have the structure to get them fixed. Now, you've got to put a citizens committee together, even if you give them no power, to at least get yourself some help of people who do fact-based work, such as Councilmember Luna did, and get the facts. And at least they could suggest improvements. And if you don't want to buy into what they say, fine. You don't have to give them any power. But you've got to get some help, because I believe your staff is too busy to do it. They've got other things to do. I think they're also prone to political pressure, like everybody is, and that's your job. You take the political pressure, you make the vote. But I think you ought to get some people in on a committee, and I'm not talking about 2016, because it ain't going to happen by then. You know, get some people, and we're already behind the 8 ball. If you wanted to give this to somebody in September, hey, it's February. I hate to tell you that. So the time does fly. So all I'm hoping is, no matter how you vote on this one, that you look to the future and fix it. Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you very much.
There is one more speaker, Mr. Mayor.
How's it going? I think
Good.
most of you guys remember me from before, Jason Sims, local. What about an oversight committee? We do everything accelerated. We're in the service. Like him, I'm a veteran. I'm in construction right now. We run accelerated schedules on projects. I have project management, construction management. I'm currently a construction superintendent. We can do this. I want to volunteer. I want to help. I appreciate your argument, but I also want to help everybody else that just wants to have a good time. My daughter's going to be born in 2 weeks. I want her to experience the first one this summer.
I appreciate it. I remember you being here at the other meeting. Councilmember Friend is in charge of that rally committee, so he will.
And I wanted to answer Marty, and I thank you for bringing it up. I thought the consensus was in the council that we were going to do that for the. I know we're up against the wall for 2016, but 2017 is going to be a big deal. And I think you're right. I think we need to get some people in here that have the background that can help us identify these issues and solve them.
So if you,
I will take that as as an assignment that we'll get a committee together.
Mr. Sims, if you can leave your name, phone number with the city clerk.
Yes, sir.
So Councilmember Friend.
I'll do
Yeah,
that.
We'll get a hold of you.
All right. Thank you for coming back and staying involved.
Oh, you bet.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so just really quick, I just want to make it clear, I really don't, and I agree with, well, thank you, Mickey. Yeah, I think the question that what you're driving at with the BOE is important. You know, we need to know those numbers. We factually need to know what's happening. I'm somebody, as a former business owner, I could tell you that I'm somebody that's driven by facts. And I think that's crucial information that we need to have. Marty, I think you make some excellent points. You know, we definitely need to get our stuff lined up. 2016, I think it's going to be one of those a placeholder type of years. It's just going to be there just to have it, so we don't lose momentum. But we definitely need to do something for 2017, and I'm confident that Councilmember Friend and the committee will be able to do something. The unfortunate part is I don't really see a compelling argument for me to vote against it. I don't have it in front of me. I'm looking at this contract. I'm looking at the discussions that we've had here as a council, and I just don't have a compelling argument against it. It's hard for me to say, hey, you know, $180,000. Here we are getting $135,000. I'm not telling you this as a resident. I'm telling you this as a business owner. When there's money being shifted around throughout our community with the influx of money, whether it's 25, 40% of folks, whether it's sales tax, we can't even just look at the sales tax. Sales tax isn't going to be our savior, that alone, because there's a lot more that goes into it. I wish we could do some kind of economic impact report on this rally. Obviously, we would have to pay $100,000 for a consultant, and it's not worth it. But I wish we could find somebody that could do it pro bono and help us figure this out. But ultimately, my decision is based upon, hey, we've had some consistent years that have been fairly successful, fairly not so successful at times. But the argument to not have it, for me, is just not there. And that's why I'm supporting it as I did last time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. And just go back to the point Mr. Richmond made. I agree. And I think, again, we have to make sure that the future rallies we're following up on all these items. I think the committee really is not about organizing the rally, but making sure everything's functioning correctly. We're making sure the finances are in order, where vendors are applying and again, thank you, Councilmember Luna, for that. Everybody's doing the right part so we don't lose out and we're not playing a game any longer. It has to be run professionally, and this year is late, unfortunately. But if we can take care of some of these issues this year, we'll be that much better for the next year. Thank you very much. Is there a motion on item A6?
I make a motion that we approve item A6.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? Aye. Against?
No.
Motion carries. 3-2 vote. Public input. This is time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, the first speaker is Rochelle Escamilla.
Hey guys. So I'm here to talk to you about the 400 block, which is the big green space in front of Gavilan College. And I've heard about development happening and other kinds of things happening there. And one of the things that I've heard is that it has the possibility of being turned into sort of office buildings or some kind of building structure. And I'm just here to tell you, the council, that I think that what Hollister needs to bring people into downtown is not another set of buildings. But what Hollister needs to bring people downtown is a reason to go downtown. And I think that this big space that's there, the 400 block, has so much potential. And when I think that in order to facilitate change in the city of Hollister, you must be a facilitator of public space. In cities across America, in cities across the world, there are public squares where there are benches, there are places to plug in, boom boxes or projectors or anything where people can gather without the need to purchase things in downtown. Now that sounds like, well, then no one's going to buy anything in downtown. But if people have a reason to go downtown, to collectivize, to be in a space together and to exist in a space together, then they will go to downtown Hollister. That will bring people in. For example, some of the ideas that have been pushed around online on the Save the 400 block Facebook, which got 130 followers in 5 minutes. I don't know how many people are here, though. All right. So one of the ideas was, why don't we just sort of provide benches and places to sit and maybe some Wi-Fi and encourage people to use the public space? Why not paint on the wall of the vault a big giant chalkboard like they do in other cities, and it says, hey, welcome to Hollister, what do you think? And then people go and write what they think on the wall. Suddenly you have people coming in and taking pictures on Instagram. Suddenly you have people hearing about it. It gets buzz. And instead of people flying by Hollister on the bypass to go to Pinnacles, which I watch on Instagram each week, instead they're stopping in downtown, looking at this public space, this facilitated space that you've allowed to be there, and they come to downtown. And that's the heart of where downtown is. So I just want to let you guys know that there's some opinions going around online, and if you want to see them, just check out the Facebook page. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marty Richmond.
Marty Richmond again from House. Just on the previous speaker, I'd like to say she showed some thought and some interesting points. My discussion today is the meeting the other day with the some representatives of the Board of Trustees of Gavaland College and one of their administrators, and the mayor attended, and Bill Rivera attended, the city manager, to make a presentation. And I bring you bad tidings. 12 years ago, we, once every couple of decades, we get a chance to do something here. And 12 years ago, the voters here voted to pay the Measure E, Gavaland Measure E bond, which was going to bring in $108 million. Actually brought in 113 once you added interest that they got from money they didn't spend. And that was going to build a Hollister Education Center. And that Hollister Education Center is 12 years gone by now. And we have the new budget for their Measure E. And of the $113 million, they have 20 of it that has not been spent. And that 20 has fully obligated to other proposals and projects. The amount going to the Hollister Education Center is zero. So there will be no Hollister Education Center. You always ask the taxpayers to step up to the plate. The government always does, so we stepped up to the plate, and we got hit with a beanball right in the head, okay? Or we took one under the chin, and we didn't get out of the way fast enough. $93 million has been already spent. 20 has been put aside. 10 of the 20 put aside is going also into the Coyote project, in which they've already spent $24 million. The 10 will add to 34, and they will lend the police academy $10 million to get in there, which makes it 44. And the only thing they did here was buy $10 million worth of land, which we can't put anything on. So basically, we're going to wind up, by the time this bond is paid, putting $26 million into this bond. And what we got out of it was a piece of land we can't put anything on. No improvements here whatsoever. They didn't fill one of the items they promised on the Prop 39 specified project list. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Not one thing did they put in here. There's nothing on that program list that went into Hollister, except for the land, and $9,625 in planning. Just for the record, the planning they paid for at the main campus of Gilroy was $4.5 million, and they gave us $9,625 to plan a Hollister Education Center, and now we are zero. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Marvin Jones.
Oh, my. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The Hollister, the county's sheriff's department has a policy of if they have an illegal immigrant in the custody and the immigration control and enforcement puts a hold on them, they'll hold them for them. If they've got an illegal alien in there without a hold, he serves his time and he's released back into the community. That's the policy of the county. I was wondering if the city had any similar type policy. Are we a de facto sanctuary city like the county? I was just curious of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones.
Roland Resendez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Roland Resendez, and I'm a community member here in Hollister. And I'm here to speak to you about the 400 block as well. I just wanted to pledge my support in that I am not in favor of it being developed in another commercial building here in Hollister. I, along with Rochelle and other members of the community, see that particular piece of property as a jewel in Hollister. I think it's invaluable. I don't think that we should sell it for any amount. It's the heart of Hollister, and if we really want to see some improved economic development and some beautification in the city, we should invest in that property and in developing it in a smart manner. I remember last week during public comment, there was a gentleman here, and he mentioned something about a plaza and some benches, maybe a gazebo. If we can look at something in that aspect, and maybe, like Rochelle said, free Wi-Fi, some seating. We really need to find a way to engage the community and bring them downtown. Right now, I know that there's not much use down there, but we're going to work together and try to brainstorm to help bring more people down there. I know that I've spoken to each one of you on a personal level, and you've known the kind of work that I'm known for doing here as far as public art and community placemaking. Basically, we take something that's not being used or is old and drab looking, and we beautify it, and we turn it into something of use and of purpose. And that's something that we don't do because we want some kind of monetary gain or any kind of recognition. It's because we reside here and we care about it. We're raising children in this community, and we want that to impact them growing up in a positive means. I know that Morgan Hill is doing a lot of placemaking, community placemaking. A lot of other cities are. I do recall that we said last city council meeting that we're a little bit behind on the general plan. That might be something to look at also to include when we start planning to bring our city up to par with other cities like Santa Cruz and Morgan Hill and San Jose. I'm not saying that we're ever going to get to that level, but if we can include public art, community placemaking, and community engagement projects, that's going to help to overall impact the entire community. I see a lot of young kids here, and I would encourage you guys to get involved if you guys want somewhere to hang out, and be able to have maybe a performance stage there, some interactive art. There's so much potential that we can, tap into right there. And I really, it would make me really, really sad to see another commercial property there not being used. I think that there's enough of that here, so people should look at investing in the businesses we have here or the buildings we have here. And we don't want to end up like Gilroy, downtown Gilroy, with all these other empty office spaces. So I hope that we can implore you and the rest of the community here to look at developing it in a smart community engagement manner. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers.
Thank you. Move to item D1, City Manager's Report.
I don't have anything at this time, but if Dave would maybe address Marvin's concerns for just a quick second, that would be nice.
Sure. Immigration is a federal function. Our mission, Hollister PD, is to help people.
All right. No business on item E. Item F1.
Tom?
Good afternoon, Council. I'm here to do the mid-year second quarter report. We'll start out with expenditures, revenues. And to remind you that our revenues come in usually a couple months late, especially in the sales tax, property tax. We did get our first check from the county. The other delays are state revenues, which is your property tax in lieu of VOF and sales tax. So we're estimating right now we're about 51%, which was up compared to last quarter, but I think we're right on track. There's a few line items that we're going to watch, but overall we feel pretty confident with our revenues. Our expenditures, the big noticeable one is non-department, but that is because for the first 2 quarters we paid off the police side fund and the fire public safety side fund. So that's about $2 million right there. So that would make sense that we are 87% for the half of the year. And the next one, we do have a adjustment for City Council that we're asking for supplemental appropriation. Like we've had some with the county billing us for LAFCO. They did not bill us last year, but we received it this year, so we have 2 years to pay, and that's why it's a lot higher. But we did ask for we're asking for supplemental appropriations. The area that is always concerned is making sure engineering is allocating their time. They've been allocating it, but also their inspection revenue has been coming in. It's about 611% of the budget, so we feel very, very good that their salaries are about 35%. The one that sometimes they're a black eye, but we're working on is the fire department's overtime. They're at 110% of their budget, so we're at 175, and personnel is about 53%. So that's roughly about overall for personnel. We're pretty close to where we should be. Let's say what happened during the second quarter. The main thing was spending $1 million to pay off our public safety fire side fund. So we have 2 of our 3 already paid off, and I want to thank council for taking that effort to get rid of some of our debt. It does help with our future year costs.
It might help if you explained how much that saved over the 5-year loan.
It's about well, for the fire part, it's about $200,000 to $250,000 a year, depending on what person's charging. Some of the adjustments that we're asking for are the special revenue funds, the CDBG, park dedication, housing, and so what I'll just kind of do is real quick jump. Some of the appropriations that we're asking for is, like I say, City Council for the LAFCO. For the city manager, we're asking for some additional appropriations for professional services for the fiscal sustainability services. For the treasurers, we're asking for benefits. When we did the budget, we did not have an elected treasurer, so now we do, and we provide their benefits. For planning, we did a fault study. We want appropriations for that. CDBG and then the housing fund, it's for loans. And a couple of the other funds, we budgeted items last year for equipment, and it finally, because they're very big equipment, they didn't come in last year, but they came in this year, and we wanted to roll over that funding. So, perfect time for
I noticed one of the items, 223, Office of Traffic Safety. I thought we had a grant.
We do. So we're, at the beginning of the year, we weren't sure what that grant amount was going to be, so we didn't budget anything. So now that the grants come in, we're asking for that budget, and it's offset by grant revenue.
Okay.
Any other questions from council?
Any other questions from council? Do we have any, actually, I'd like to have more detail on exactly some of the other items you're asking for.
Okay.
For the water.
Okay, for the water fund, was for the delivery of the water tender that we budgeted last year and approved. It's just, like I say, finally coming in this year. The other increase is for the water JPA for their charges for the water treatment plant. And then the big one, the sewer fund is their excavator that, like, once again, rolled over from last year's approval. And then some $7,000, I believe, for unexpected vehicle repairs. And then for the $65,000 is for to work with meeting the requirements with the State Water Resource Control Board.
So on the excavator, didn't we put that in that budget?
Last year we did, and it did not, like I said, the equipment did not come in until this year.
Okay. But we already allocated funds for it before. Okay.
We didn't spend it last year, but so that's why we're asking for it this year.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember Clower?
On the fire overtime, is most of the expenditures in events, or is that kind of ironed out over the entire time? Because I want to learn to see what are we doing wrong here as a council, because we can't get the number right.
Right. I realized that you might have that question, so I invited fire to come here and be able to answer that question.
Thank you.
Actually, that's a real good question. Yeah, I was voluntold. So what we have is I've got a total of 2,244 hours of special details, and what consists of the special details are, of course, career development to develop our personnel internally, and also what we do is we provide special projects like the Villa Hermosa area got smoke detector installs in collaboration with Red Cross. We put 32 hours into that. We establish engineer tests, firefighter tests. That costs hours because we have people that come in off duty to proctor the tests. For instance, the Independence Rally, 288 hours of overtime. Cienega Fire that we had in November generated 240 hours, and the list goes on. We've got so many hours that aren't allocated towards a firefighter taking off and then having us fill that time in. Most of these hours are customer service hours. So we have, for example, the Sheriff's Explorers, Police Explorers, and Fire Explorers. We spent 2 days developing CPR training for them, which amounted to about 128 hours. But with that 128 hours, we were able to generate over 30 teenagers in those Explorer programs to become CPR and first aid certified. So there's a product that comes out of the overtime that's generated. I hope that answered the question.
Is there a way to separate the career development from overtime? Because when I think overtime, I think, okay, so there's a fire, we need everybody out there, they're getting paid overtime.
Right.
But that's not what this is, most likely, at least the majority of it.
Right. So for the staff that I have on board, the leave hours that they earn that they're allowed to take amount to about 29,341 hours. Of course, they're not going to take that in 1 year. They'll take bits and pieces of it throughout the year, and we'll fill in that overtime. I've generated a report with the help of the chiefs to separate that, and that's how I was able to identify the 2,244 hours. So you've got hours of leave that my staff can take, and then there's hours that I call them back so they can provide a service to the community. And the influx is the fact that when they do come back, those hours are generated. However, there are emergency callbacks within that. There's over 238 callbacks for either fires, gas leaks. So if we evacuate, like we evacuated the Locust block and we opened up the Vets building, those hours are allocated into that also. So there is a division. I can provide those divisions. So you got more visibility as to where those accrued overtime hours are allocated towards.
Okay. Thank you.
Chief?
Yes. No, I have one more.
Oh, okay, well, I do. As we worked on the consolidation or the partnerships and with all the other people we brought in, one of the main reasons was to drive down that overtime. And I know you're working through the getting us there. I think it's going to be very important this year, and especially in the following years, that we're aggressively attacking that overtime and also some of the other hours in there. So the solar plant, I know we allocated 2 positions for it.
Yes.
Are they paying us for those 2 positions now?
We're billing them, and I believe we're getting funding from it.
So we are being paid from it now,
yes,
even though we're not
exactly
active out there.
And they understand that they had us hire the 2 firefighters in October, and those firefighters are on standby right now until they can start up with full construction, and we communicate with them on a regular basis. From what I understand from Chief Alvarez is that they're going to start mid-March. So at least we have a start date for that. But they did say that in October and November also. So
Right.
we're crossing our fingers that this happens.
So as we cross our fingers, I want to make sure that we're using our resources. And again, I know you're working hard at it, but we have to really drive it down so we can come in within budget this year on that overtime and then see what we can do as far as the overall budget.
Yeah, and I'm still going to focus on providing the customer service that's outside of the calls for service, like doing the smoke detector install and things like that, because I can't have an on-duty engine provide that service, because if they get a call, they're going to leave that program. I need to have people on staff who are willing to. Now, these folks volunteer their off time. Of course, they get paid overtime to do it, but I still need to provide a specific outreach program for the community so they can be receiving a good emergency customer service.
What I'd like to see, for an example, with that is involving the community, different groups that are willing to go out there and help do a lot of these installs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of groups here that are looking for something to do,
Yeah.
and they would be more than happy to do it with the backing of the fire department. I'm going to need your overtime for the 4th of July weekend, cracking down on those fireworks. So
Right.
there's a reason I'm talking about this, right?
Yeah.
So we can go after them and have them pay for the time out there. So
Will do.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Friend?
I just had one question, another one on the increase on street sweeping, $4,000 increase.
Correct. That was for the overtime in relationship to doing special events. So, like for parades, sweeping after parades and things like that.
As Councilmember Friend has brought that up, we really need to take a look at that item. This is an ongoing problem category. We need to look at requesting bids on providing street sweeping services for our community. We looked at it before where there was a potential savings of $100,000 to $150,000, and I think this year is that year we're going to finally go into that and understand what we can do to make that happen and provide a better service for our community. I don't think it's acceptable any longer, and I also think we have another major issue with street sweeping. That is the cars that are parked in the same place a month at a time and aren't moving, so our street sweeper can't get through. We have a lot of issues there, and we're going to have to figure out how to change people's parking habits that don't seem to move their cars or leave additional cars parked in the same place for too long. It's very important we clean those streets, and we need to make sure we're doing a thorough job of it. We hear a lot of complaints here at City Council, as you know, of residents wondering why we skipped their street. We didn't skip their street, we just drove right down it without sweeping it because there's cars in the way. So we need to really take a look at this and get an answer to it this year.
Okay.
No speaker cards? Are there any questions from council? No?
And just kind of for the public, we give you the hard copy first of the mid-year budget review. Also attached is our quarterly that we give to the employees, and we'll have that online so that people can view it. So we ask that you adopt the resolution for the supplemental appropriations.
One more question. I'd like to see where we're at with the remainder of the side funds and how we talked about if we're looking good at this point to pay off the remainder, the outstanding balance. I think it was $4 or $5 million. I know they're coming from different departments, but if we can look at that.
Will do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett.
So there's a ask for your approval of the resolution.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Item F2.
Thank you, Mayor. This item comes to you as a result of some public input at their last meeting. I believe Gordon Machado presented and asked kindly that the City Council agendize an item for the funding assistance for the HDA in the amount of $57,500 to continue supporting the HDA's efforts in economic development. It looks like he's here and ready to speak, so I'll be quiet and he can take over.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Gordon Machado. What I'd like to do is to give a little bit about history of the Downtown Association, then turn it over to Donna. Where's Donna? Oh, so you got my back covered. Good. Donna Backgate to give a little more details. In 1985-86, in cooperation with the city, the concern of downtown, we formulated a downtown association. Almost within a year, the state of California came through with a California Main Street program. It was kind of technical assistance from the state. There's no financial assistance, but technical assistance. We applied to be one of those cities. Unfortunately, we didn't make it the first year around. There's only 5 in California per year. The second year, we were encouraged to apply for the second year because the state said that we had such a historical stock downtown. And it was kind of an ideal situation for what the program they were implementing. So we were fortunate in the second year to be one of the 5 in California to be designated as a demonstration City California Main Street program. In their program, they needed a definite defined funding for executive director. Most of your downtown associations were just kind of a volunteer group and all that, not focused and not professional. So that was one of the requirements. In a partnership with the RDA at that time, they were just formulated just prior to that, there was an agreement that they would do a funding for executive director on a continuous basis, and it was never looked at then after. So we've been funded by the RDA since 1987. Anyway, at the very beginning, with the aggressiveness of a young organization, we looked at some of the main problems downtown, and one of the biggest problems we had was 4th and San Benito, where you had the trucks coming through town, making left-hand turns, right-hand turns, hanging up, and sometimes it took the police department 5, 10, 15 minutes to come on out and then remove that semi that's bound in the traffic holding up the Main Street. So we formulated a committee, and which was then the Measure A committee, and I'm very proud of the fact that not only the county and city got together, and if we're going to a sales tax, the city and county wanted to be partners of that, for we wouldn't tie up the ballot in the future for some more money for funding. So it ended up that the city and county together came out with 11 different projects. Of course, 2 of those was the 156 bypass and the 25 bypass. So that, very proud that credit should go to the Downtown Association. After that, we were very, again with the cooperation of the city, we were very involved. The things that happened downtown, the good Lord himself, I don't know what we did wrong, but we had an earthquake, which is very damaging to downtown. The Downtown Association again got involved in coordination with the city staff. We even had block captains. Every block there was a merchant, a member of the association who was coordinating the city's effort to that one block area. Then we had to fire the 700 block. Almost 3/4 of that block burned down, and again we had it was probably a duty to join with the city again to do the coordination with the recovery of that block, and that was a 2 or 3 year project. The other thing that the Downtown Association, I think that we're very proud of, is the fact that the coordination we do, and I love that word coordination, I guess, the coordination of people. You know, we have the street festival, we have the farmers market, we have the Lights On Parade, the Christmas parade. All those are man hours, hundreds or thousands of man hours in combination. And sometimes we feel like we're herding cats, but we get it all together, and those projects come over very well. And I think this is one of the bigger assets for downtown. We also worked with the city on the strategy plan that's been done twice now since we've been association in a 10-year period. And of course, we have our own annual work plan, which is kind of an overlap to a certain degree. Well, we're also mentioning the fact that there's 30 plus downtown associations that are funded by cities themselves. A good example of one is not even funded by the city, it's actually run by the city. City of Morgan Hill, which I think is one of those that we look at as a grandioso, the one that you want to mentor or whatever the case. I don't think we can ever do that by the physical construction of Morgan Hill versus Hollister. But the City of Morgan Hill actually has an individual, Ms. Tobin, is a city employee that is the director of what happens downtown Morgan Hill. So with that, I'd like to introduce Donna Bakich.
Thank you, Gordon. Esteemed members of the City Council, thank you for having us here this evening and for putting us on the agenda as we requested last month. It's very generous. To be specific, the volunteer hours that Gordon was just speaking about equal 4,000 to 5,000 volunteer hours. The HDA is synonymous with the betterment of the city and the coordination of members of this community in projects and events that bring people to the downtown. Because we do have 2 items on the agenda this evening, we have this item, which is a one-time ask of $57,500. The next agenda item also belongs to us to be asked in order for us to request to be put on the annual budget as a line item for economic development monies. I'm going to go ahead and streamline and try not to be too repetitive. The HDA is an undeniably strong marketing source. Just this evening, we heard from Ms. Escamilla about how effective a popular social media page, the Facebook page, worked for the 400 block event and to distribute information to the public and how popular that was. Well, the HDA has that down to a science. They are undeniably strong. Promoting events like the Lights On celebration, the Beer and Wine Stroll, the Street Festival, brings folks from all around the Bay Area to our downtown. During the farmers market, the city makes additional revenue from temporary business licenses purchased for the sale of goods and food all along our historic Main Strip. This happens for several weeks in the summer, and it brings a lot of people out, people who live in the downtown, people who live in the county. They come from far reaches of this county, but also come from other cities, and they learn about this at the HDA website. They learn about this on the Facebook page. We're out there, and the word is is spreading. Just a reminder, as we saw from the previous agenda item, licenses and permits constitute 85% of the city's annual budget for 2015-2016. I'd like to think that the HDA actually helps you achieve that 85% through the farmers market and other events where vendors come to sell products. This is not a product of word-of-mouth marketing, like I just said. The HDA is a member of a larger marketing network scheme as well, known as the Main Street programs. Through our research, our fact-based research, we learned that the Main Street program has several programs that are assisted financially by cities. In fact, we're unique in that we are one that is not. And with the loss of the RDA funds, a little bit of assistance, financial assistance, can help us take the small-scale marketing that we're doing to promote the downtown and broaden it to a larger scale. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. What goes into our marketing, the researching, the reporting, the fact-finding. The HDA does all of these with very capable administrative staff at a very reasonable cost. To ensure that every aspect of their marketing approach is geared towards the most successful outcome, bringing people downtown, economic development. The HDA has a shared interest with the City of Hollister, and that is to promote economic stability, to bring interest, to bring people here. I've heard a lot of words being thrown around tonight, and one theme is clear. It's the heart of Hollister. Downtown is the heart of the city. And what we need is we need economic development. We need economic stability. We need interest. We need businesses. We need places for people to go and spend time, more than just spending a couple hours at an event. The kind of information gathered by the HDA putting on these events on the smaller scale now, just to name a few, is how many people interact with the HDA website and where these people are when they're interacting with the HDA website, and how effective or the location our visitors come from when they buy tickets via the HDA website or by calling the office for these events. We can provide this information about what the interest is in downtown Hollister to the city. This is one of the services that we were accomplishing as a recipient of the RDA funds, which we can accomplish again, especially as the city seeks to inform and mobilize constituents to steer towards a more diverse and a more pedestrian-friendly downtown. An example would be the restriping project. The HDA was instrumental in getting constituents down here to town hall meetings to talk about how much benefit the community in downtown would receive by restriping. In line with data collection and reporting, the HDA is proficient in assisting the downtown strategy planning implementation. Gordon talked a lot about how our annual work plan overlaps with the city's annual strategies. I don't see why we can't expand upon this. $57,500 is all we're asking for this year to help start expanding upon these services and provide these to the city this year. Councilmember Friend concurred with Mr. Richmond that in order to make a memorable 2017, we start here in 2016, and that's what we're asking you to do. An association with interested persons is what the HDA is, local business owners. I myself am not only a member of the board of the HDA, I'm a local business member. My business is off of 7th Street. And I, as a business owner and as a member of the HDA, have a vested interest in seeing Hollister's downtown do better, do more, grow, become more economically viable, to attract more attention, more visitors, more businesses to come into the area, more just people who want to spend time in historic downtown Hollister in the heart of the city. I don't want this to just be a place that people stop on the way to see the pinnacles. I want it to be a destination. And I have to disagree with some of the speakers today in line with this request, in that I believe that we can be as good as Morgan Hill. I believe that we can and will, through strong partnerships like the one the HDA is offering you, can be just as beautiful and just as historic and just as much of a stopping point, or not a stopping point, a final destination, and a destination to set up shop for new businesses or relocating businesses as Morgan Hill. And that's what we're offering. We're offering to do everything we did for you when we were receiving RDA funds, but we've had to scale back on because of the lack of those funds. By providing us with a fraction of what you would have to pay a city staffer to do these same things, the HDA is willing to partner and wants to partner with the city of Hollister to revitalize, to diversify, to grow, and to develop downtown Hollister. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions from council? Councilmember Clower?
What was the annual funding from the RDA when that existed?
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brenda, I think at its very highest point it was $65,000.
Okay. How do we get to the $57,500 this year?
That's a good question. I can't answer the question. It's putting everything together, and that's what the bottom figure was. I'm sorry we don't have the full details on that, but it was all justified.
So I've met with Brenda. It's a survival figure? Is that the number that we're working with here?
It's yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What percentage of the businesses downtown are members of the HGA?
I better get the executive director. I'm only the president.
Bring her on up.
We have probably about 30 to 40% of the businesses, or maybe even less than that. As you know, it's an optional membership. We can't force people to join, but everybody benefits from whatever we do to make downtown a better place. So you could, as a business member, you wouldn't have to join, but you benefit from our activities. So it takes people feeling compelled to join and wanting to join to do that, but they don't have to.
Okay. I guess I'm done. I don't know. Most of my next questions get kind of pointed, so I'd rather just stay away from that for now.
Okay. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have a question to ask. I see where the designated downtown organizations, there's a listing here, and it says business-based improvement district. How do they form those? Because City of Hollister is showing here without that.
Well, it was done with representation of the city at the time. I don't think the city has an official district, downtown district. We just formulated in coordination with the city, and we went from 3rd Street to Hawkins Street, and then east to Monterey Street. Some of that bows out on Monterey and East Street a little bit. But that was the main concern. Probably a lot of it was when the Main Street started with the state, and they designated a lot of that because of the historical stock.
Yeah, because I noticed that in speaking to some of the businesses, the first thing they say is, I'm not downtown and I'm not in a district where I can belong to the Hollister downtown. I think, and I mentioned that to Brenda.
That's a misnomer because the Downtown Association accepts any person whatsoever. It has nothing to do with not being a member. We have members, even bad members outside the city. It's whether, if you have a heart for the downtown, for the city, we have members that join for that one reason. There is no boundary. There's a boundary. There's a boundary. Pardon?
Would it help to form a Hollister Downtown Association district?
It's a bid.
To expand it?
I think there's confusion in the conversation. So that's a bid district.
Mm-hmm.
And what that requires is property owners within a certain area have to vote on whether they want to be taxed on that assessment on their property tax to create that district. And that was brought up several years back, but there wasn't enough supporters to make that happen in the downtown.
Okay.
Yeah, the business improvement district was basically the same boundaries.
But actually getting the word out to every business owner that they can join, that would be helpful, I think. Okay, that's my comment.
Not only business owners, we have a lot of private citizens that recognize Hollister downtown as the heart of the community, and they join in the from the heart.
Council Member Friend.
I have a question for Brenda.
Thank you.
I'm going to put you on the spot. When we talked before, and I know you've talked to most of the council members before, one of my concerns was when you came before us and asked for this money that you were going to have to give us a product. And I see you have done a very good job of creating your goals and your achievements and everything. My big concern is that's quite extensive. Are you really positive that you can achieve these goals with the dollars you're asking?
Are you saying that our work plan is extensive? Mm-hmm. That was created before we even thought about coming to you.
Well,
I can show you work plans from the last 5 years that look just as extensive.
I understand that, but what you've done now is you've given us something we can sink our teeth into. Sure. And say, you told us you were going to create an economic climate downtown and work with the city on high-speed internet.
That's one of our goals.
High-speed internet, then we're going to be able to hold the HDA accountable for not.
One of our goals is to encourage you to do this, and it's on our agenda every month for the Economic Restructuring Committee to try and make that happen. We don't have the funds to make that happen, but we can encourage it in every which way we can think of.
Okay, I'm just concerned that your plan is extremely aggressive, and I don't think a year from now, if we're sitting here asking you to tell us, what did you do for us?
So a plan is just something that you shoot for, right? This is a work plan, and some of these things will be carried forward into the next year if we're unable to accomplish them this year. But these are things that the board of directors identified as things that they wanted to accomplish, as well as our committee members. So they're establishing those stars to shoot for, and things that we think are important to making this community economically viable. And high-speed internet is definitely one of those things for offices or any kind of office that's running any high level of activity, or Redbeard Communications or any kind of communication firm has an issue with the download and the high-speed internet, or the lack of high-speed internet in the downtown. So that's something that would be an economic development tool. It would be very attractive to offices if they could have really fast downloads. So it's just, we're putting it out there as a wish.
I agree. I'm just saying it's a pretty aggressive schedule that's going to be very difficult for your volunteers to do. It's going to be difficult. No, that's it.
Okay, so here's what I believe as far as our downtown. The comments about Morgan Hill being so great, that there's only one reason they're doing well is because they stuck to a plan. And I can remember the early 2000s when they were asking us how we're doing things. We shut ourselves down. They kept going. We could be, I like to believe we are better than Morgan Hill for a lot of different reasons, but they are a cute little town. The downtown HDA is a very important partner in making our city the city we all are proud to live in, but we have to have a clear plan. I think that's what Councilmember Friend is talking about. We talked about restriping downtown. I guess that's the best example. Mm-hmm. And that's all great, but that's one step. Mm-hmm. There are several more steps that have to be done. Otherwise, all we've done is throw money down the drain. And I see the HDA as being that partner that's coming back and saying, okay, city, we took care of A. Now, B is the bulb outs, or B is recruitment of restaurants, and C is this, and D is that. A partner that's constantly on our back, coming up here and saying, hey, city, we did this part. We're ready for the next part. We need the funding, because at the end of the day, you don't have the fund. This is a a city-funded project.
Exactly.
And if that's a $3 million project, it's a $3 million project. And we all have to understand that this is not a $100,000 project. It's a big project. But what are those steps we're trying to achieve? What are the timelines we're trying to make those happen at? Because I see these dollars as dollars that should be used for that. I know HCA has a lot of great things as far as the parades and different activities, which are very important. But that focus has to be put upon the other groups out there that are willing to do it. So your focus can be on the strategy, implementing the strategy, the high-speed internet. What does that mean? How do we do that? How important is it? Is it more important than restriping? Is it more important than the bulb out? Is it more important than making it attractive for restaurants? Where does that fall in the line of importance? How do we follow up to make sure we're achieving our goals and not being out there too far where we can't get them done? So I'd like to see more of that plan. I think without the Downtown Association, we're going to fail in our downtown. But we need to make sure we're understanding what that role is going to be, because really, if the city's going to put more money into this, that role has to change. I know the farmers market's very important, but we have to take a look at that. There's a lot of businesses that aren't happy right now about it or the location of it. Doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means we have to really go back, talk to everyone, make sure everyone's on board. And those businesses that aren't signing up, we need to go back and make them realize how important their input is. You can't just open a business in downtown and complain about how there's no foot traffic in downtown and say, by the way, I don't want to pay my $50 for my membership to help downtown.
Correct.
There's a lot of pieces to this, and I think, again, it's how we're going to implement them and how we're going to have a clear goal. Because, again, my big thing right now is trying to understand how we're going to go from the restriping to the next phase. If we don't have that, all we're going to get is complaints about the traffic in downtown since we restriped and how it's inconveniencing people. How are we going to bring the foot traffic? The arts, there's been a lot of great ideas about the arts. How do we, something as simple as beautifying the city with murals. We looked at the utility boxes this year, and there was questions about, or last year, how's that going to look in the city? And there were some people complaining. Well, nobody complains now because they're beautiful. How do we make sure we're doing these types of things throughout the city and putting that into the plan? Hey, we want to put so much money into murals or beautifying the other utility boxes or whatever it is, lighting around the street year-round. So when people do drive through, they're saying, what a pretty place. I'm so glad I live here and not in Morgan Hill, right? So we have to strategize on that and really understand it. I know you put some of the utility boxes out there so you can have power. Do we need to put a few more out there? How do we string lights across the road all year long? Let's liven it up. How do we get the permits for people that need them? How do we get the restaurants open? Who do we find to come open a restaurant? Let's focus in on a goal of 5 restaurants this year or 10, whatever that number is. How do we go find those restaurants, get them to open up, or other entertainment venues? So now we're getting foot traffic. How do we do the pop-up restaurants? How do we do things that make people come out night after night after night? And that's what I'm looking for. I think HCA is a very important partner, and I think if we don't support you, we're going to have other problems, and it'll be our own fault. But we need a plan that we can all stick to and aggressively get this thing done. And again, if that's a $3 million project, it's a $3 million project. Let's not shy away from the numbers. Let's understand it. If we're going to bring people, it's going to cost us money. It didn't happen in Morgan Hill for free. I can tell you that right now. There was a strategy and an investment that happened, and it made the difference in their community. We just have to understand what that is, so we're not talking about this in 5 years and say, well, the restriping kind of worked, okay, but should we put more signs on the side of the buildings, or should we be doing the bulb outs or the crosswalks? We have to really clearly identify those steps and get them done. And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think there's some confusion. I did save our spiel for the annual budget for the next agenda.
I know, but you know what? Let's just get it out in the open now.
Getting into it, yeah. So part of the next spiel was that the HDA needs to do more than exist as a glorified event planning organization. That's not what it was intended to do. But because we lost the RDA money and because we had to scale back, that's exactly how we're existing right now. We're putting on events to bring people to the downtown, to bring attention to the downtown. We're doing every small feat we can possibly accomplish. As you can see by our work plan, though, we are shooting for the moon, not the stars. We're shooting for the moon because we hope that even if we miss, we will land amongst the stars, as the saying goes. So one of the reasons why we want to be an annual line item, like the other cities in the Main Street program are, being financially assisted by the cities, is to be able to go back to...
Let's hold up there because
Yeah.
we are talking about item 2, and that's the first $57,000.
Right.
We don't want to get into the next item yet. Again, if we're going to be able to put, and there's reasons for it, if we're going to be able to put the dollars into it, I agree with you. We have to go away from being this event organization to a group that's getting the job done for the city and really pushing hard, pushing us to fund what we're talking about here.
Yes.
And again, I've talked about the road striping, the bulb outs, the crosswalks, the lighting, things that the public can see right away. I know high-speed internet's very important.
Yes.
But we need people to believe in their downtown. We need an urgency on finding those restaurants, incentivizing those restaurants to open. So strategies that we need to work together on
Absolutely.
and be clear on to make those dollars worth it. In the grand scheme of things, that's a very, I hate to say this, cheap employee. It really is. But it's a very important partner for our community.
It is. And so you wonder what the $57.50 would get you, what the $57,500 that we're asking for this one-time ask will get you. It will get the HDA the resources to start now instead of waiting until the budget can be, and all these details about the plan and what we can offer you coming up in the near future, we hope. It gets us started now. It gets us back to a place where instead of worrying about starting to focus all of our energies on the upcoming events, we can start on collecting data, collecting information, taking a harder look at our work plan and turning it into, I mean, up until a few months ago, we didn't plan on coming to you guys this soon and asking for this. But the opportunity has arisen and we're here now. And we want financial assistance every year so that we can get back to what we were doing. We can get back to a more structured plan. We can get back to becoming more of a marketing and an organizing and a coordinating partner with the city, not just an event planning organization. Though those events are fun and they do wonderful things for the downtown.
So let's go back to item 2. Item 2, the $57,500 are dollars to keep you alive.
It gets us to
Let's get straight to the point.
Yes.
Right? They
Keeps
keep
us
you
alive,
alive.
and it gets us
So
to
then
the
we
point
can have
where
the
we
next
talk.
conversation.
Yes.
Okay? Is there any other questions about the $57,000, $57,500 from the council?
I have a question.
Councilmember Luna?
Yes, the 57.5, that's for the year 2016, right?
That's for this year, yes.
Just this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And just to be clear, this is no bond, this is no Measure E. Your money is going here to the downtown of Hollister, not over to San Martin.
Just to be clear, if we did this, you know we're going to be all over you about it. So
Yes.
as the public will be on us.
Accountability.
Absolutely. Councilmember Clower?
Calendar year 2016 or fiscal year 15-16? And it may seem like I'm splitting hairs, but 57.5 is, if it's for 4 months, it's a pretty big number.
It's for the calendar year, yes.
Okay.
Just to confirm with my executive director.
Thank you.
So we won't be putting a line item on until the mid-year review next year?
No, we'd put into our budget, but it wouldn't be going out until January of the year.
Budget half of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Do we have speaker cards?
Yes, sir. For item F2, the first speaker is Marty Richmond.
I thought so.
What do you
Marty Richmond from House. I wonder if I can ask a question of somebody from the HDA, because I meant to ask this and I didn't. What % of the 2016 budget approximately would be $57,500? Approximately. Yeah. Round numbers. Okay, about a quarter, 20 to 25%, somewhere in there. I think it's like everything else. You know, it's an investment, and you should decide what it's worth to you. I think the argument that if you had to have somebody do it who was a public employee, I know I got a bad reputation on this, but the truth of the matter is, with all the overhead that entails, and all the retirement benefits that entails, and all the negotiations that entails, and all the other stuff, and the cash-in of leaves and all that, you'd be lucky. Who do you when you look at the total bill for something, how many people you got working that make less than $57,000? I know this is not for a full year, but it's not very many employees. 4,000 hours of volunteer work is worth a lot of money, even if it was only $15 an hour or whatever. Another issue is, yes, they need to do a lot more than events, but we live in an event-driven society, and until we have something downtown that draws people like a magnet, events are the best thing we have for draws. Okay, gets them down there, gets them walking around. I don't know how much money that generates for who, but it generates traffic, and traffic is the key. If you're in the retail business, it's traffic. It's, because you get a certain percentage, everybody walks up and down the street, whether they're looking for your shop or not. It's the way to get more shops down there. I am going to leak over into item 3, because I won't speak on it then, and this will save you some time. I am concerned in one area, 2 areas, and one of them the mayor brought up, and I'm sure the rest of you were thinking about it. I am very concerned that if only 30% of the people downtown are members, and the question is, are they in such dire financial strait they can't be members? I don't know what the dues are. That's not where I'm at, but they should be members, because they're going to get the benefit. And if that's not the case, and they don't want to be members, when optional things come up, I hate to say this, but the HDA should concentrate on their members. Those members should get the optional benefits. There's some benefits going to go to everybody, like the street. But when there's optional things, they should concentrate on the members who pay the dues. That's just fair, because there has to be something in it for the people. Otherwise, they won't pay the dues. And so on the F3 thing, I just hope when we take a good look next year, or starting this year, and I will wind up and going into F3, to make sure we're not doing too much overlap with the chamber and other organizations.
Absolutely.
We don't want to do too much overlap, because that's a problem. So we should look at memberships too, to see how many people are members of both, and one or the other.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Rick, sorry.
Go ahead.
Rick Shelton.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to address the council. Thank you. We've been in the insurance business locally since 1980, 36 years on Main Street. We've seen a lot of things happen during that time frame. Our business in the early years struggled. Now it's thriving. We've also received national acclaim with some of the honors we've received. Part of this was due to our commitment to downtown Hollister. Hollister has been very great to us. The HDA has been it's been an outstanding organization. We have a great community. By the way, I was raised in Morgan Hill for 20 years, but I live in Hollister.
And you chose here, right?
Yes,
there you go.
Yep, and I'm very happy to be here. I've raised my family here. It's a wonderful place, and I want to see my kids have the same opportunity we had to raise our kids. Anyhow, it's been the HDA has been breathing a lot of life into the downtown businesses since 1985 and providing outstanding downtown activities, traffic. Many cities do not have an identifiable downtown location. Hollister does, and we should maximize that potential. The possibility that we could possibly lose the HDA, the organization that's been the catalyst for many for the businesses and events that bring our community together, the downtown, the home place, the home, is unimaginable. The HDA has been an impressive. The work plan, Councilman Friend, I agree with you. It's quite an aggressive work plan. If they can get 75, 80, 90% of it done, it'd be outstanding.
I was going to say 40%.
40%, okay. I'll go back to 40 then. Anyhow, the work plan for 2016 is quite impressive. This is a well-organized machine that it provides really a lot of value to our community and for all of us in the downtown area and for everybody in Hollister. The one point, events create benefits in many ways, and also we bring people in from outside our community to our community, and a lot of people end up staying here. I respectfully urge the council to consider this outstanding organization's funding, not only for 2016, but on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Friend, you had a comment?
Well, I did, but I read the resolution, and I think I answered my own question. So.
Okay. Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank the HDA for taking the time to present here today. There's been a number of good points, I think, that have been made during this discussion. And, from my perspective, it's going to come to a collection of all of those thoughts. Marty obviously makes an excellent point, and that's my perspective as well as the fiscal perspective of it. If the city of Hollister had employees doing it, with all due respect to our employees, it would cost us a crap load of money. Benefits, retirement, just a multiple amount of things that we would not be able to afford to do. So I thank you all, the board members, staff, for the work that you guys are doing in the downtown community. I'm supportive of this. I don't have any beef with moving forward with this funding. I do want to have additional conversations with Brenda and maybe some of the board members in regards to the work plan. So I'm a little hesitant, trying not to get ahead on 3, but I am a little hesitant on moving forward with annual commitment at this point, though I think we do need to do something. So I am in favor of the city potentially looking at a dedicated annual commitment, financial commitment from the city council. So I will support this one-time funding, and I will support re-agendizing the next item. If or you guys could go ahead and pass it if you want, but my desire would be to maybe look at that.
Yeah,
for the future.
Council Vice Mayor, just so we don't get in trouble with the item 3.
I understand. So anyway, I'm supportive of this, and I appreciate the work that the HDA is doing. I think the Downtown Association does need to delve into economic development, whatever that is. I think it's right now a little difficult to gauge what that would entail, but I think overall it's something that we need to do. We dedicated some funding to the chamber and just recently, and I'm happy to see what the chamber is doing with those TOT dollars and drawing some attention to the county collectively, but specifically looking at the Downtown Association. It's a really good organization to have. So anyway, I'm supportive. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Clower?
Would these funds be coming out of the general fund or the economic development fund?
As Brett has provided you information in the past, the sale of the properties, it's all in the general fund. But Brett will kind of account for them just separately from the economic development perspective, but it's general fund.
So are we planning on accounting for these funds coming out of the economic development section of the general fund?
We certainly can do that, yeah.
Because there's a lot of economic development in the resolution, and if we have not necessarily a fund, but a portion of it set aside for those purposes, it seems like that would make sense.
Yeah. Are you getting up to say something?
Because the council reserved those monies for economic development, if that's your motion, we just ask that you say that you use those funds. So we move those funds out of economic development.
Okay. That's something that I would suggest if we do move to do this. I'm sorry I seem a little Debbie Downer on it. I don't necessarily like the precedent of any association coming and asking for this much money. I think as soon as we do it, then it looks easier for everybody else to do it. That may not be the best way to look at it, but that's how I feel about it. And Brenda and I have had some kind of tough conversations about existence in general. That being said, I think a lot of my favorite things about Hollister are put on by the HDA, so I do understand the benefit and the value that you guys bring to the community. So I'm for this. I'd like to see it come out of the set aside or however we want to call it, so that we know, hey, when we burn through that, we burn through $1 million, and it's not just a number in a bigger pot. That's about all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, I just have a question for Brenda. I know in your plan, have you ever thought, or maybe I'm not looking at it, but have you ever thought of having some type of advisory committee, a volunteer committee? Because, you know, like anything with nonprofit organizations, everybody that does not belong to the organization wants to advise you how to do things. So, but you know what? And that's one way of bringing people in. If you have an advisory committee that is city, you know, from throughout the city business, and they're not part of it, they're going to see the work you're doing. And they may be encouraged to just join and be part of it. So I'm just, I was looking for it in your plan, and I don't think I see it.
We have 4 standing committees: economic restructuring, organization, promotion, and design. And you do not have to be a member to be on those committees. So anybody who has interest in participating and helping us work through our work plan, because there's a work plan page, at least one page for each of those committees on the things they're working on, we welcome their help. It's not open to just members.
Right. So if you can let us know, maybe we can help you get the word out to get more people involved and actually meet with you.
Yes.
And go over this.
Yeah, we meet monthly. All those committees meet monthly.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Councilmember Friend?
No, I just kind of want to echo what Victor said. I really do see the value that the HDA brings to us, not just the events that they put on, but I think they do a fairly good job of representing the city. When the council's not representing the city, I think they're doing a pretty good job of promoting the city, as well as the Chamber of Commerce is doing. So I support this also.
Just to go back on, go ahead.
No, I didn't know you had a comment.
I do have one more comment. To go back to what we're talking about, you know, we worked hard over the last few years to get ourselves in a financial position so we can finally start investing back in and doing what we need to do. So we are there now as a city. We're on the positive side. We just need to make sure that we're going to really focus in on what we're trying to accomplish. The Chamber's job and what they've been doing is really promoting not only within the city but outside of the city to bring people in. We're looking for your help to finish those plans in the core of our city, the heart of our city, that will bring in, when those tourists come in, they'll stay and they'll eat at the restaurants or stay at the hotels or enjoy our downtown. So the focus, as I've said before, is laser sharp here. We have to be looking at what we can do to accomplish quickly this year. And that meaning before our year end here at the city. What we can accomplish, the striping, the next plan for the bulb outs, maybe some lighting on the trees or different things that attract people at night. You know, you got a freebie over here on with a new mural that was put up. It turned something that was very ugly into something very beautiful. We need to look at those types of things that we can accomplish quickly so it's visually pleasing to the public. So again, go back and look at your strategy. Let's cut out 70% of what you have right now and look at what we can accomplish quickly. You are a very critical part of our city. If it wasn't for the HDA, we'd still have a freeway. We do have a freeway, but we'd have no plans to change it. We'd have no hope for it. I would also recommend a walk around downtown. Some of the pavers are dipping and they're hazards, so we got to fix a lot of these issues quickly.
I'll walk and take pictures.
Absolutely. And this is where you get to come back and kind of put it at us, because if you're not telling us and we're not focused on it, we're not going to get it done. And this is where we need your help. Sometimes we're not going to be happy about it, but it's what needs to be done. So a good strategy and good plan will take us a long ways.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2016-09.
There's a motion?
I'll second that motion with the comment that I'm happy to see that Brenda has shifted over to Donna instead of Gordon as their spokesperson. So thank you.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Thank you very much for coming out. We'll move over to item F3, and we can start having that conversation about the funding annually. I would, out of the gate, like to say I do agree with Vice Mayor Gomez. I think it's first we need to see what's going to be accomplished in this short time frame to prove that we're making the right investment rather than just locking something in. I think there's a lot of work on your part, and I know it's not a lot of time, but I think Vice Mayor Gomez is absolutely right that we need to see some things getting done. Is there comments from other council members? I will let you comment.
Well, I just wanted to address that. I did have additional comments for this section that I didn't bring up, but last week's HDA quarterly breakfast saw a pretty exciting discussion about code enforcement. And I do want to compliment the city on the changes you've made in code enforcement. As an attorney here in town, I do contact Ms. Martinez quite often, and she's very responsive. I've had nothing but good experiences with her. So I know she's working hard, but we do have 4 standing committees, like Brenda said, and one of those committees is the design committee. So by all intents and purposes, the businesses downtown that are currently in violation of this ordinance, that 25% of their, no more than 25% of their window or their storefront can be covered in order to help promote public safety, to give police officers a line of sight directly into the businesses in case of instances like 911 calls where you have armed robberies like we have had in the past. Those kinds of things are issues that the Downtown Association can help with. We can help field calls, complaints, concerns. We can talk to business owners about whether or not they'd be willing to self-help and remove the posters before code enforcement does have to get involved. We can actually, that is a service that we did provide and we can provide, and we can start that immediately. Thank you for resolving what you just resolved, because that does allow us to take a step forward towards accomplishing that goal as well.
Okay, is there comments from Councilmember Clower?
I don't feel comfortable with item F3 at this time.
Okay.
I didn't hear the comment.
He doesn't feel comfortable with item F3 at this time.
Okay.
Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, I would like to have some more discussion on number 3, or maybe take it to another agenda.
Maybe table it for a future date.
Yes.
My comment before we go to speaker cards, you're pointing out something. And really that should have been done already from HDA. So this is why it's so important that HDA is so focused on downtown. When they're seeing these things, they're doing something about it rather than waiting for our code enforcement to do it. And if it's not being corrected by those business owners, then we can bring it back to our code enforcement. So again, you guys are the owners of the downtown. You represent all the business owners. How do you help, right? So it's an important part of it. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you want to make a motion to table?
I would like to make a motion to table the item number 3, F3.
Okay, there's a motion.
Is there a time on that?
To
I mean,
Well,
I guess I don't understand what more argument.
Yeah, you probably don't need to really do anything. Well, I don't. He's here, so he can do it the correct way. However, we have budget study sessions coming up in the next few months. You adopt your annual operating budget in hopefully in June. We have mid-year again in January. There are time for these things to come up. You don't necessarily have to table it for a date certain or any time. I think if the motion fails to approve the resolution, then it just fails and we move on.
Well, I think the having it fail is probably not the right answer, but tabling it to a date in June or May when we're having discussions on the budget would probably be a better motion, in my opinion.
And I just wanted to understand the hesitation. What are we holding off for? What are we asking the HDA to provide us that they haven't provided us already?
Well, let's go here. First, we have a motion, so we need a second so we can have the discussion. Am I correct? Or we can have a discussion now?
No.
or I can withdraw the motion.
I'm not against anything. I'm just asking for a clarification.
I think it's just to, again, what the HA is going to accomplish over the next few months. If they can put the plan together, we see they're actually doing it and following through with their commitments so we can commit to them long term also, rather than just approving something permanent and then find out that nothing's being planned, but money's being used.
When is our first budget hearing?
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Monday?
It would also be helpful to look at this as a little piece of a bigger puzzle than just saying, hey, let's do this. We don't know what everything else looks like.
Well, I understand that, but
that's what I'm waiting for. I don't
every
want to look
6
at this
months
myself.
when we have a meeting, we can put 0 next to that line item. We don't, just because you say they're going to have a line item and $60,000 a year, if the next budget session we said 0 on that line item, then they wouldn't get $60,000 a year. I guess that's what
The only
I
thing
see
that-
plenty of
yes.
opportunities for us to decide whether or not.
From a
that-
staff's perspective, I think that here's what I would rather avoid. I don't think that the council's not wanting to help assist the HDA be successful in their ventures. But I also don't know if it sets the right precedent to actually have them be a part of our operating budget again. Because what you will have is you'll have every nonprofit organization that you've recently funded to say that your process asking to be on your annual operating budget instead of every year having them make a presentation about what their goals and objectives are for that year and whether or not you want to help subsidize them for that particular year. I mean, is Julie here? Yeah, see, Julie's here. So if I'm Julie, I'm going to probably come back and say I'm representing the Chamber of Commerce and I want to be on your operating budget. And it's going to be difficult for the council to continually say yes to some and no to others, and what's that really looking like? So I think moving down the path of having every year or every mid-year or every time that they run into a situation that they can come ask for that subsidy, that would probably be the most appropriate. And you're not technically kind of tying future council's hands to some extent.
Well, I would like to say to that is they're not just any nonprofit, they're a critical part of the city.
Oh, yeah.
The downtown's a very critical part. Nonprofits could come in, but they're going to hear, at least from me, no. but they're a very important part. And what their role
All
is
nonprofits are important.
they are. But what I'm saying is, economically, it's the Downtown Association that's going to change our city, along with the Chamber. And it's very important that they're bringing in business, keeping it here, bringing in more foot traffic, which is going to pay for their existence as they succeed. So, for them, long-term strategy, it's a little hard. And again, right now I don't think it's the right time, but they need to be more focused on their plans for the 5-year plan also. And if they're more worried about each year being cut off, well, we're going to fail there. So I'm looking to have that discussion at a little later date so we have a clear plan on what they're going to accomplish this year, put it down and see what we can get done, and then we go into that long-term conversation.
We used the same argument a few months ago when the chamber asked for the same item, and one of the reasons we did that was for the consistency, so that they don't have to worry about whether they're going to have that money every year, that they're going to be able to do a 5-year plan and expect that 5-year plan to be funded.
Right.
Now we've told them, do your 5-year plan and we'll think about funding it. Every year they're going to come back and make a presentation to us and ask us to fund the next year. We haven't accomplished anything.
No, we're talking about the HCA here?
Yeah.
Okay, no, what we're saying is...
The argument was the same for the chamber as it would be for the HDA, and the argument for the chamber was we needed to budget them so she knew what their expenses were going to be that she had to provide a product for. We're asking the HDA to provide a product, but we're telling them every year you can come to us and beg us for money. That's not business.
We step back. What I pointed out here is that they need to have a 5-year plan also. Right now, we approved money for this year. As we're going to our budget discussions, May, June, we'll see what's going on here, see what that 5-year plan is, so then we can have a long-term commitment to the HCA. Because a yearly budget or a yearly, are we going to fund you or not, is going to fail. I agree with that. But I think it gives them time to go back, create a 5-year plan based on their success this year with this money, so we can see what that 5-year plan is, and then the 10-year and so on. So I think it gives you actually more time to come back and present it right and really have those goals ready and what it's going to cost the city to accomplish those goals.
So, Mr. Mayor, I was the maker of the motion.
Okay.
Did anybody second that motion for discussion? Nobody did.
Is there a second? I'll second your motion.
I didn't finish my motion.
I thought the motion was
my
withdrawn.
motion. Yeah, I just said I would like to make a motion to continue this to another meeting, and I would recommend that we go to the second meeting in March. That's my motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, motion dies.
Fails for a second.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 2016-10.
There's a motion to approve 216-10. Is there a second?
No seconds.
No.
Now that we don't have a motion, can I just talk? Okay, so my concern is that if we look at this as a long-term budget item, this is kind of scary, but we don't even know if we can fund you for several years in a row. We don't know if we can fund the Chamber of Commerce. We don't know if we can fund the fire department for longer than 3 years. So I don't see how we can look at this long-term. And hopefully we look at the budget and it says, hey, you know what, this is good this year. And I think you guys will say, well, thank you. And we'll look at it again the next year. But without knowing where we're at with the tax extension, there's no way we can know what we're going to be able to fund on a 5-year term. We only got 2 years and 3 months left. So I don't know what we do for a third failed motion here, but that's where I'm at on it.
You give it a shot and you make the motion.
would it even be? Does it even have to be an item on the Mondays, or can we just talk about it then? We can just talk about it then, right?
On Monday?
On Monday. Okay, then I move that we table this until next Monday's meeting.
You can continue it.
Continue it.
Continue the discussion until next Monday.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Let's move forward to item G1, reports from City Council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna.
I did not have any committee meetings. In fact, the gang prevention was canceled.
Okay. Councilmember Friend.
Yeah, I had 2 reports. One is the Intergovernmental Committee. We had a short meeting to introduce the new members of the Intergovernmental Committee, and we're going to invite some people back to bring them up to speed as to where the governmental committee was at, so that we can continue on with the projects we've already been working on. The other one is a report on the Youth Advisory Committee. We have invited the applicants to meet with us tomorrow night, and after that meeting we will be making a recommendation to the mayor on the 7 appointees, and then to be on the 15th of February we could get those on the agenda, and then once the mayor appoints them we can swear them in and get started with that committee.
Great. Thank you. Vice Mayor Gomez.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to encourage folks to attend this Wednesday's Council of Governments special meeting scheduled for 4 p.m. at the County Board of Supervisors chambers. We're going to be discussing the proposed transportation tax measure, the list of projects that may be included in that tax measure. So I want to encourage folks to attend if you're available. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Flower.
I do not have any reports.
Thank you. To expand on the intergovernmental, there will be a presentation about the proposed aquatic center at the meeting that would be on Thursday, this Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. We'll be swearing in for voting for the new chair and vice chair, and also receiving a presentation from the aquatics group. Move forward to item G2, informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna.
Yes. On Tuesday, January 26th, I actually helped sponsor a wastewater treatment plant tour where 23 people attended. I thought it was well attended by our community, and everybody was very happy that the people that attended, because they really didn't know about the water treatment plant, and it was interesting. On that same day at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon, I was a speaker for the Youth Tobacco Coalition meeting at the Veterans Memorial Building, and it was nice to see the young people involved, and I did announce about the youth advisory for the city and to make contact with Councilman Kim. And I attended on Wednesday the breakfast for the Hollister Downtown Association. It was very well attended. It was very interesting. A lot of information that was actually given out. And on Thursday, I attended the city workshop on harassment at the Hollister Police Department, and that was interesting, and it was packed. The one session that I attended was very, very well attended. So that is my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Friend.
Well, I attended the same breakfast and I attended the same training. Both of them were excellent. The get-together on the breakfast generated a lot of discussion. It was very healthy, and I thought it was very good. The other thing is I attended the open house that the mayor and Supervisor Jaime De La Cruz sponsored, and again it generated a lot of good discussion, a lot of input from from the general public, and I think we should do that on a regular basis. I think it would be very good to hear from what's going on or what their questions are. That's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Gomez?
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Clower?
I also attended the workplace harassment training, or not that, but anti that. And it was interesting to find out how many ways there are to get in trouble in the workplace. Being self-employed, I don't have anybody to offend, so that was interesting. Also got an email from one of my constituents in District 3 about speed on Cienega Road, and they were asking for a stop sign. I know that's very difficult to do, but I was thinking maybe we could just add another speed limit sign on each direction. You have one right when you come onto Cienega from Nash, and one right when you come onto Cienega from San Benito Street. But there's like a half-mile gap where there's nothing telling you what to do. So if we could get started on that, that would be really helpful. Another little thing, please don't litter. In my district, for some reason, people are tossing Christmas trees out the back of their trucks just on the sidewalk. Not real cool. And then the last thing is just want to give kudos to Public Works. I know they've been working pretty hard on with the storms and then with the water main break. It was pretty rough down there on Saturday morning. A lot of water going on there. So it was good job to those guys and ladies who are working hard out there.
Thank you. I do want to say I did see a patrol car hiding there off of Cienega waiting to give some tickets. So luckily that was not me.
Was he hiding behind a Christmas tree?
I think he was. Several, as a matter of fact. Wanted to thank also the Public Works for getting out there for that water break. But it does bring up the point that we need to have a discussion about that water main. I know we've been patching it as we have those holes or the leaks come through, but let's really get a solid plan together so we understand how much it really is going to cost to do the new line. The line that I saw, this time it wasn't from a leak from one of the valves. It was actually a hole that punched through the pipe, which is pretty amazing when you see that happen on one of those lines. And the aftermath that it caused, it blew out kind of a lot of dirt out there. So we need to really take a look at that. I did come across the guys doing the road analysis, driving around, and I stopped them really quick to see where they're at. They said they were about wrapped up with that. So hopefully we can get information on that part of it so we're understanding where we're going with the improvements to the streets, especially around downtown. We all know those are some of the worst in the city. Galvin update, very frustrated to hear what I heard at the meeting. I think it's time we do get that update from Galvin College. Let's understand exactly how much money, if they can come out and tell us how much money is being taken out of our community every year. I think it's time that the public understands what is really going on. It's disappointing to feel like we got hoodwinked on that one, and something needs to be done about it, and we need an update here at the City Council so the public understands what's going on. I know it can't be changed, but
well, and here's the thing that puts kind of me in a hard spot is we've made the request, but again, from one legislative body or one body or district board coming to another district board to tell them why they do things sometimes doesn't always play well. That's why I really appreciate the intergovernmental's sort of strategy of asking them to participate in that committee, because I think that it's important that they are there, especially when you have the other school districts representatives as well. And I think that when we start to build that relationship, it's already starting to feel like it's an us and them thing, and I don't think that's ever the intent. But I want to make sure that they feel comfortable, or everybody feels comfortable coming in and giving a report to the council. So if I can, like I said, I think what we'd like to work on first is trying to get them at the table at intergovernmental. I think that's a great first step. And then you can have those conversations with them sort of offline rather than trying to put them at, kind of on the spot. I know if somebody asked me to go to Gavilan College and tell them about what you guys do, I would never do it.
Well,
I just wouldn't do it.
I would say this. We tried that strategy last year, and that didn't seem to work. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but when you're avoiding it for this long, we got a problem. So I would rather see them show up at intergovernmental, but since they are not, I think the public is really owed an explanation on why their money is not being used in our community. And if that's their final decision, it's their final decision. But we as the public deserve to know that information. Okay, City Manager.
Oh, I have nothing.
Now it's your turn. You can talk about your idea.
I'm good. Just please don't forget next Monday night. What time do we want to start, Brett?
I think you put it down for 5.
5? Okay. 5 o'clock.
Okay, City Attorney.
AB 21, which was, I believe, discussed last week with Soren and Aaron Johnson, which was the emergency legislation to remove the kind of artificial March 1st, was signed by the governor last week and unanimously passed the Senate and the Assembly.
So what's the deadline now?
There is none for cultivation, just this year.
Excellent, excellent.
Good.
Well, I would like to make a short report on that, but it wasn't an official committee until tonight. So
at the next meeting.
Next one, I'll make a report.
Chief.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. Starting out tomorrow, we have our first official rally meeting. We'll do a site walkthrough, and then at 2:30 we actually have all the stakeholders at the PD for our first meeting.
What time is that meeting, Chief?
2:30 is the meeting at the PD. Coming up, which I think would be kind of interest to the council, is we have actually a state CalPAL, California Police Athletic League regional meeting at the police department. But that's not all that interesting. But what's interesting about it is the information that I've just gotten might be something that we might consider for your youth advisory committee, in that PAL offers leadership and government training annually to groups from different municipalities. So maybe for 16, 17, we might want to consider that, sending the group down to that training. It's only about 4 days, but I heard it's excellent, actually, and it's kind of geared towards those kinds of things. Lastly, Junior Giants is going to open up registration actually March 4th online, and we're hoping for a big turnout. We had a huge turnout last year, but we're also going to do walk-in registrations this year at the community center March 19th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Season starts this year at June 13th, so that's about a week after Little League ends their season, so it won't interfere with Little League at all. And I think also Hollister Heat ends their regular season around that time as well. We're actually going to begin the season on June 25th, which is, of course, the Saturday of the Saddle Horse Show. But I'll try to be there as well. Again, this is a free program. T-shirts and hats and equipment are provided. What we're really asking for this year, if you could sort of ask your constituents, we need more adults, parents, involvement to make this program a success. It's going to be vital this year. With 530 kids last year, I expect at least a 25% growth this year. So we'll need a lot more adults. And all the training is provided for free, by the way. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, City Clerk.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. HIJK, there is no business.
Move for adjournment.
The motion, is there a second? Second. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Anyhow, I got 7 copies of that.